Did you really think the Taoist was bound by the constable's shackles? No, it was the spit of 300 villagers and the otter fur hidden in the magistrate's robe. When rotten cabbage leaves blinded your eyes, the water demon in the depths of the blood river was already counting the sacrifices laid out on the shore. Not until you bit through your own tongue and pressed the thunder talisman into your blood. That night, the county office burned to scorched earth, and the official's black hat floated on the bloody water, the brim pressing down on a patch of wet otter fur. You were sent by your master to descend the mountain and exorcise demons, but in Blood River Village, you ran into the century-old otter demon's curse. Villagers turned into fish corpses one after another, while scales from the otter demon hid in the magistrate's sleeve. When you laid out a heavenly trap to strike down the demon, the constables seized you instead, parading you through the streets with the label of demonic Taoist. Only when filthy vegetable leaves struck your face did you finally realize the otter demon was already wearing human skin, sitting proudly in the Hall of Power. In the dungeon, water rose to your neck as the otter demon's claws ripped through the surface. "Little Taoist," it hissed, "the blood sacrifice has only just begun. On the brink of death, you bit your tongue and smeared blood across your ancestral thunder talisman." When the dragon's roar split the night sky, the entire county office was reduced to a white wasteland in the storm of thunder. When the dust settled, only the magistrate's black hat floated on the bloody water, with a patch of wet otter fur pressed beneath it. The stench of rot and sweet blood clung like a cold, slimy hand over your nose and mouth. At the entrance of Blood River Village, the murky river churned with sickly dark red bubbles, like a festering python crawling beside the dead village. The air lacked the usual dampness of a riverside village. Instead, it reeked of something baked dry by the sun and soaked in foul blood, a suffocating staleness. When your master's bony finger tapped the ink dot on the map, that heavy sigh now weighed on your chest. Cheng Yue, the otter demon of 100 years, has taken shape. This journey is not only to slay demons, but to cross the demons within yourself. You tighten the strap of the peachwood sword on your back, your fingertips brushing against the hard, cool surface of the thunder-struck jujube wood token in your talisman pouch. That touch was your only anchor. The Maoshan clear void steps landed silently on the cracked mud at the village entrance. Dead silence. Too quiet. No dogs barking. No roosters crowing, only the thick, unsettling gurgle of the river, like the writhing of rotten entrails deep underground. Taoist master, save us, living immortal. A hoarse wail tore through the stillness. An old man, hair and beard all white, stumbled and crawled to your feet, his withered hands clutching your robe with surprising strength. Behind him, a few pale-faced villagers carried a door plank covered by a tattered straw mat, the stench of blood and rot seeping from underneath. "It's old Wang, he!" The old man's tears and snot streamed as words broke apart in his throat. You signaled them to set the plank down and held your breath as you stepped forward. With a flick of your horsetail whisk, you lifted the mat slightly. A stronger wave of stench hit your face. The body beneath was swollen beyond recognition, its skin a strange bluish gray, glistening wetly with an oily sheen, and covered in thick, dark brown crusts resembling fish scales. The most terrifying part was the face, bulging eyes staring blankly at the gray sky, the mouth gaping wide, stuffed full of slimy, dark green water weeds all the way down to the throat. On both sides of the neck, deep slashes gaped to the bone, their pale edges curling like torn fish gills. It's a water ghost, a river spirit claiming lives. The old man pounded the ground as he wept. You bent over, channeling a faint trace of spiritual energy at your fingertips as you brushed lightly across the corpse's gill slits. A shock of icy, slimy, demonic energy stabbed into your fingers, reeking of blood and stagnant water sharp as a poison needle. This was no ordinary water ghost. You jerked your hand back, your eyes flashing as you stared toward the gurgling blood river. Deep within the water, countless, hateful eyes seemed to glare at the shore through the murky current. When did it start? Did anything strange happen before? Your voice was low, holding down the storm raging in your chest. Last evening, old Wang went to check his nets by the river, never came back. A tall, skinny villager stammered. This morning we found him like this. He's the third. The first two, Cripple Li and Widow Zhao, they died the exact same way. His eyes were filled with drowning terror. The third one. The monster is eating people to grow stronger. You drew a deep breath, the fishy stench of the river stabbing into your lungs with a faint, musky otter stink. The thought had barely formed when a commanding voice barked from behind. Who dares make such a racket here? Gathering a crowd like this, what kind of order is this? You turned. A small sedan chair draped in blue cloth had stopped a few steps away. The curtain lifted to reveal a well-kept, slightly plump, middle-aged man wearing an official robe with the rank badge of a 7th-grade Mandarin duck. It was none other than Magistrate Zhou Wenhuan. He frowned, pressing a white silk handkerchief to his nose and mouth as his eyes swept over the corpse and the terrified villagers, finally settling on you with a sharp, cold glint. Magistrate! The old man, as if seeing a savior, crawled to the sedan. There's a monster in the river! It's eating people! This Taoist from Maoshan, please, let him rid us of this curse! Monster? Joe sneered, his voice muffled behind the silk, yet cold enough to bite. Under a bright and righteous sky, where would demons hide? This must be trouble stirred up by unruly folk, or an epidemic. Stop spouting nonsense and scaring the people. His gaze cut toward you, that scrutiny suddenly turning into an icy spike. Who are you, Taoist? Do you have credentials? Spreading these lies, what is your intent? I am Cheng Yue, sent by my master to investigate the demonic presence here, you said, bowing, though your gaze was as sharp as a blade aimed straight into his eyes. The corpse shows signs neither of disease nor plague. It's the work of something unholy. As the one entrusted with the safety of this land, how can you simply look away? Insolence! Joe slammed down his handkerchief, his face dark with anger. If I say there is no demon, then there is no demon! Speak one more word of alarm, and I'll charge you with disturbing the peace! He flicked his wide sleeve, as if to add weight to his words. In that instant, as the sleeve billowed, a faint, cold, fishy aura identical to the demonic residue still on your fingertips slithered into your nose like a snake's tongue. Your pupils shrank sharply. Your gaze locked on the flash of something wet and dark brown glinting inside his sleeve lining, gone in a heartbeat. Scales. Otter demon scales. The cold, slimy sensation seemed to crawl from your nostrils through every bone in your body. In the magistrate's sleeve, scales of the demon. He wasn't unaware of the demonic presence. He carried the scales in his very sleeve. That foul, icy aura matched the traces left on the corpses by the riverbank exactly. He wasn't a blind official, was he? A conspirator? Or was it an even darker thought that made the chill shoot up your spine? Magistrate Joe clearly noticed the change in your gaze. A flicker of suspicion and panic flashed in his eyes, quickly replaced by deeper malice. He snorted, abruptly dropping the sedan curtain to block your stare. His voice came muffled through the fabric, colder than before. Men, burn the corpse at once to prevent this plague from spreading. As for this Taoist, I'll overlook his misconduct for now. But if he dares to spout nonsense again, I'll have him arrested and punished. Move out." The constable shoved the villagers aside and hefted the grotesque corpse. The old man's cries of despair and the villagers' numb, terrified stares stabbed into your heart like icy needles. The sedan chair swayed away, leaving only silence and an even heavier air of hopelessness. You stood frozen, your hand clenched tightly around the thunderstruck jujube wood token inside your sleeve. Its sharp edges dug painfully into your palm, but nothing could suppress the storm in your chest. The demon hides in the dark. The official stands in the light. They are in collusion. Blood River Village has become a den of monsters. That trace of demonic aura from the sleeve scales clung to your mind like maggots on bone. Magistrate Joe's cruel eyes in daylight, the flash of fishy light in his sleeve, none of it was your imagination. The demon's tracks are elusive, the magistrate's attitude ambiguous, the villagers blind and panicked. This mire is far filthier and deadlier than the Blood River itself. Before another victim appears, you must pinpoint the otter demon's true form. Night fell heavy as ink, pressing down on Blood River Village. Avoiding the home still lit by lanterns, you slipped through the darkness like a wisp of smoke, silent and unseen, toward the dense reed marsh outside the village. This was where the demonic residue was strongest by day, where the river bent and slowed, likely the demon's lair or hunting ground. The ground was slick with mud, the stench of rotting water plants mixing with the metallic tang of blood, suffocating. Holding your breath, you moved with the 7-star Mauchon steps. Each step landed lightly, yet carried the hidden pivots of heaven and earth. Your fingers pinched 3 soul-seeking talismans of the 9 netherworlds, drawn with cinnabar and your own blood. In the dark, the talismans glowed with a faint light only you could sense. Heaven and earth, lend me your power. Spirits of the 9 netherworlds, heed my command. Let no demon or filth remain hidden. Go. With a sharp cry, the 3 talismans shot from your fingers, not burning but transforming into streaks of ghostly blue light. Like living snakes, they raced across the water's surface and through the roots of the reeds. Wherever the light passed, the murky water below suddenly revealed countless crisscrossing trails of dark red. Like dried lines of blood still warm, they reeked with a stench that pricked your scalp and pulsed with demonic energy. All these bloodlines converged from every direction, finally pointing like rivers to the sea, toward a deep, unassuming pit completely hidden beneath the thick weeds. Found it! The otter demon's lair! The aura spilling from the cave was thick, cold, and saturated with a century of venomous hatred, 10 times stronger than any residue you had sensed before. A formless chill seized you. This demon's cultivation is far deeper than even your master predicted. Just as you focused all your energy on the lair, true chi surging inside you, ready to lay down a killing formation. Demonic Taoist, where do you think you're going? That's him. Spreading lies by day and sneaking around at night, he's definitely working evil. Surround him! Don't let him get away! Like thunder, angry shouts and the trampling of feet erupted from all sides of the reed marsh. Torches tore through the darkness, flooding your hiding place with harsh light. In the glare, over a dozen fierce constables charged in with iron rulers and chains, their faces twisted in aggression. Leading them was the same head constable who had stood beside Magistrate Joe earlier, his eyes now gleaming with cruelty and a sick delight. A trap. Warning bells screamed in your mind. The scales in Joe's sleeve earlier. This precise ambush, now it was all a setup. They'd been watching you all along. Even the location of the demon's lair was likely bait to lure you into this snare. I'm here tracking a demon's trail. You've been deceived. You barked, trying to stop them. Shut it, demonic Taoist! The head constable sneered, cutting you off. The magistrate's orders. This fraud pretends to conjure spirits, spreads lies, and disturbs the people. Now he's sneaking out at night to work evil. Take him! Dead or alive? Dead or alive. The words hit like ice water. They meant to kill you. Iron rulers whooshed through the air, chains clattering like snakes striking for your throat. A cold gleam shot from your eyes. A disciple of Mao Shan is no lamb for slaughter. Your body shifted like a drifting willow leaf, narrowly dodging several crushing blows. Your right hand, fingers like a sword, surged with true chi as you struck a constable's wrist, holding the chain, lightning fast. Ah! The man screamed, as if electrocuted, dropping the chain. But there were too many of them, trained and vicious, clearly under orders to kill. You had to protect your vital points while holding back your true chi to avoid fatally harming mortals, otherwise you'd only prove their claim of demonic Taoist. Bound and restricted, you were at a disadvantage. Worse, from the dark water pit among the reeds, a massive, icy, malicious aura suddenly erupted. Like a beast awakening, it laughed a cold, voiceless laugh, savoring the slaughter it had orchestrated. Thud! A heavy iron ruler slammed into your left shoulder blade while you were distracted. Pain shot through you, metallic sweetness rising in your throat. Immortal binding rope, now. The head constable roared with glee. A coarse hemp net, soaked in black dog's blood and inscribed with sinister runes, was flung over you. The foul stench clinging to it slightly disrupted the flow of your true chi. It was crafted specifically to restrain cultivators. The world spun. You were slammed into the mud, your face smeared with cold sludge, the rough ropes cut into your flesh, binding you like a trussed animal. Your peachwood sword was yanked away, your talisman pouch torn off and stomped into the mud. A vicious kick to your lower back made you curl in pain. Take him! Drag him back to the county jail. Tomorrow we'll parade him through the streets as a warning. The head constable's voice dripped with cruel satisfaction, echoing between the crackle of torches. You were dragged across the cold mud, your cheeks scraping the ground. Through the blur of pain, you glimpsed the dark water pit. The surface bulged silently with a huge, slimy black back, then sank again, leaving only ripples stained with bloody foam. The otter demon's icy wool slithered into your mind like a snake, mocking and ravenous. Little Taoist, the blood sacrifice has only just begun. Cold, wet, suffocating the death cell in the county dungeon was filled with filthy green water that stank of rot, rising to your chin. Every breath tasted of decay. The heavy shackles and the immortal binding rope, soaked with black dog's blood, dug into your neck and limbs, not just restraining your movements, but gnawing at your meridians like a swarm of tiny venomous insects. Each attempt to gather true chi felt like swinging fists in a swamp, triggering the rope's curse to lash back with needle-like pain that stabbed at your very soul. The spot on your left shoulder, smashed by the iron ruler, had swollen pale in the water, each heartbeat pulling at the wound with tearing agony. Worse than the pain was the despair, betrayed, slandered, and thrown into this hell, worse than any demon's den. The otter demon's cold, mocking voice still echoed in your ears. The blood sacrifice has only just begun. Time lost meaning maybe hours, maybe an entire day and night until the small hatch on the heavy iron door clanged open. A beam of dull yellow light pierced the dark. Demonic Taoist, time's up! Come see the fruit of your sins! The jailer's shrill, duck-like voice oozed malice. Chains clattered as the door swung open. Several vicious constables rushed in, dragging you from the foul water. The freezing cold and your weakness made it hard to stand. They ignored your state, binding your hands with a thicker rope, tossing the end to the man in front as if leading a beast to slaughter, dragging you out of the dungeon. The blinding daylight made you squint. Then came the deafening roar of the crowd, crashing like waves. "Kill him! The demonic Taoist! He's the one who killed old Wang and the others. Skin him alive. Rip out his tendons. Use his blood to appease the river god." On both sides of the main street in front of the county office, a dense crowd pressed together, faces twisted by fear and contorted with rage, like demons ready to devour you. Rotten cabbage leaves, foul eggs, clods of mud, and stones rained down on you like a storm. Crack! A rotten egg burst against your temple, its foul, sticky liquid blinding your left eye. Thud! A hard clump of dirt slammed into your injured left shoulder, sending a flash of pain so sharp you nearly collapsed. Splat! A slimy, blackened cabbage leaf, dripping with mud, smacked onto your face, choking off your breath. Filth, stench, pain, and the overwhelming tide of manipulated, ignorant hatred. It was like countless heated, blunt knives, slicing your dignity and faith to pieces. You had become the scapegoat, the vessel for all their fear and misfortune, carefully crafted by the otter demon and its puppets in human skin. Cold egg fluid, mixed with stinking muddy water, dripped down your cheeks, into your mouth, tasting bitterer than the mud of the underworld. Forced to lift your head, you stared past the swaying heads and the flying filth, fixing your gaze on the county office's grand gate. The vermilion doors stood wide open. Magistrate Zhou Wenwan, dressed in a pristine seventh-rank official robe, sat high on a grand armchair, surrounded by constables and local gentry. Holding a teacup, his lips curved into a faint smile, cold, cruel, and tinged with an almost imperceptible satisfaction like a man watching an exquisite performance. When your eyes, sharp as poisoned arrows, shot toward him, he merely blew at an imaginary froth on his tea with deliberate grace. His gaze was that of someone watching a fly struggle uselessly in a spider's web. The parade moved forward like a funeral procession, slow and humiliating. Each bit of filth hurled, every venomous curse landed on your heart like a heavy hammer. Faith crumbled, rage burned, but deeper than the rage was a cold despair and the madness of teetering on the edge of an abyss. Inside your sleeve, the last talisman, your ancestral thunder talisman, was pressed tightly against your forearm. Its rough paper, holding a faint spark of lightning barely surviving the suffocating filth, was your one and final connection to this hellish world. You didn't know how long it lasted before you were dragged back to that hellish water dungeon. The icy, foul water swallowed your body once again, rising to your neck. Darkness, silence, filth your wounded shoulder burned like ants gnawing at bone, while the shackles and the immortal binding rope continued to corrode your true chi and will. The otter demon's thoughts, malicious as worms burrowing into bone, echoed in your mind with the cruelty of a cat toying with its prey. Does it hurt? Are you in despair? Mortal ignorance is the finest offering. Your struggle only makes the feast sweeter. Soon, very soon, the entire village will be my river of blood. Its voice grew clearer, closer. Drops of water trickled down the dungeon walls, plinking onto the murky surface with a chilling tick-tick. The water level seemed to be rising, slowly but inexorably. That icy, slimy feeling was already brushing against your jaw. Suddenly, splash! A faint but nearby sound of water. Just 3 feet before you, the surface silently split apart. The murky water slid aside, and a claw emerged, wet, dark brown fur clinging to it, its talons sharp as blades rising from beneath without a sound. The tips of the claws glimmered with an eerie green light, reeking of suffocating stench and death, inching toward your throat with mocking slowness. The icy intent to kill pierced every last barrier like a needle. This was it. On the edge of death, humiliation, betrayal, and the despair of failing to protect all the emotions you had buried exploded like a powder keg. To hell with cultivation precepts. To hell with lightning backlash. From the deepest, most primal corner of your life, a wild force surged forth, fused with your last scrap of suppressed true chi, shattering every chain. Your eyes snapped open. They no longer held human pupils but burned gold, streaked with blood red and purple lightning. A fraction of a second before the otter demon's claws touched your throat, you used all the strength you had left to throw your head back. A mouthful of scorching blood, infused with your heart's essence and unyielding will, mixed with searing fury at the injustice of the heavens, burst from your lips. The blazing blood spray, like molten lava, splattered precisely on the ancestral thunder talisman pressed against your arm. The talisman flared instantly, erupting with a blinding purple light. It wasn't soft light, it was savage, tearing through all filth and darkness. The faint lightning patterns on the talisman surged alive, glowing as if drenched in boiling oil, releasing a dragon's roar of deep, vibrating thunder. A world-shaking aura exploded outward from you. Heaven and earth, the root of all ki, through the vast calamities, prove my power. You used the last shred of your strength to roar, hoarse yet shaking the heavens. Each word cracked like thunder through the filthy dungeon. Within and beyond the 3 realms, the Tao alone reigns. Let golden light cover my body. Ka! Kaboom! As if answering your command, a thunderclap beyond words loud enough to shatter eardrums and tear souls smashed down from the heavens. The entire dungeon, no, the entire county office foundation, quaked under this divine wrath. The heavy stone ceiling of the dungeon was torn apart, shredded, vaporized like paper. A massive pillar of purple lightning, unimaginably thick, struck with divine precision, engulfing you along with the otter demon's claw, which had just begun to register terror in the entire dungeon. The last thing you saw was that fur-covered claw turning to charcoal and crumbling under the pure yang power of the lightning. A shriek so sharp it surpassed the limits of hearing, filled with endless hatred and fear, was drowned in the world-ending roar of the thunderstorm, light, infinite, all-destroying, all-purifying purple light filled your senses. Your body seemed to disintegrate into its smallest particles, then reassemble in the lightning's blaze. There was no pain, only an overwhelming, furious release, as if heaven and earth raged with you. Your consciousness was flung into a sea of light where only the dragon's roar of thunder echoed, scouring away every stain, every humiliation, every despair. Time lost all meaning. Maybe it was a single heartbeat, maybe an eternity. The deafening thunder faded, replaced by silence, a hollow, purified silence. Cold air rushed into your lungs, heavy with the stench of burning, scorched earth, and a strange, metallic scent of vaporized flesh and blood. You coughed violently, every spasm lancing pain through your body, but the shackles and the disgusting grip of the immortal binding rope were gone. Struggling, you pried open eyes crusted with blood and grime. Your vision blurred, but you could still see. The water dungeon, or what used to be the dungeon, was now nothing but a massive, blackened pit, its edges flowing with molten dark red residue, the stone walls smooth as glass, melted and cooled in an instant by unimaginable heat. Above you was no ceiling, only a gray, clouded sky. The county office, along with the surrounding buildings, was gone. Everywhere you looked lay smoldering ruins, covered in ashen powder and glowing embers, as if an invisible giant hand had wiped this place from the earth, leaving only desolation. The foul water had long since evaporated. In the lowest part of the pit, only a small pool of dark red, viscous liquid remained, like congealed blood, sending up waves of nauseating, sweet, metallic heat. Your eyes locked unblinkingly on that patch of blood. A familiar seventh-rank official's black gauze hat, once proud with its embroidered mandarin ducks, now floated crookedly on the surface of that blood-red water. Its edges were charred and curled, coated with ash and blood. Beneath that symbol of earthly power, now a bitter mockery, something pressed against the rippling surface. A palm-sized patch of wet, dark brown fur, its edges singed. Otter fur cold, slimy, stinking of river demons. The wind carried the scent of ash and burnt flesh, whistling over the dead, pale wasteland. You lay on the scalding, scorched earth, staring at the gray sky. The wound on your tongue burned with pain. Every breath tasted of hot ashes. Your chest felt hollow, as though that mouthful of blood, along with all your rage, despair, and faith, had been expelled, merged with the thunderbolt that tore apart the night. Your body felt as heavy as if it had been filled with lead, every joint groaning in protest. Yet, strangely, the suffocating corruption that had once shackled you was gone. The remnants of true chi in your meridians flowed like a stream surviving a storm, weak but unnaturally pure, slowly repairing your battered body. The ancestral thunder talisman had already turned to ash the moment it called down heavenly wrath, leaving only a charred, dragon-shaped brand on the inside of your arm. It throbbed faintly, as if harboring a new, untapped power. You struggled, using every ounce of strength just to push yourself halfway upright. Your gaze swept over the white ground of scorched earth that had once been the county office. The jail, the nearby houses, every building was gone. All that remained was an endless stretch of burning flatland, blanketed by a thick layer of ashen white powder. At the edges lay twisted, molten scraps of metal, silent proof that something had once stood here. Silence, absolute silence. Not even a single insect had survived. Your eyes returned to the small puddle of blood at the center of the pit. The black official hat floated there like a filthy piece of driftwood, while beneath its brim, the patch of wet otter fur quivered in the faint breeze, the only splash of color in this white wasteland, glaring like a cruel mockery. The demon in human skin, the puppet master in the hall, had it all ended under this blazing heavenly wrath. You slowly lifted your hand, staring at your palm grimed, scratched, yet no longer bound by ropes. Your fingertips brushed against the dried egg and mud on your face. The sting of that humiliation still lingered, and in your ears, it was as if the villagers' hateful curses and the otter demon's cold laughter still echoed. Was it truly over? Would the dark red bubbles roiling in the blood river really clear with the demon's death? Would the villagers, the ones who threw stones at you in their ignorance, yet were themselves treated as prey by the demon, would their fear, their hatred, vanish with this white wasteland? With great effort, you stood, swaying before you finally steadied yourself. Your body was terribly weak, but nothing was broken. Your eyes traveled beyond the scorched earth, toward Blood River Village. Wisps of cooking smoke rose timidly into the gray sky, and faint, Muffled cries and chaotic voices drifted through the distance, distant yet piercing your ears like needles. You looked down again at the puddle, at the black hat and the otter fur. Then, bending with a stab of pain, you reached out with trembling fingers and picked up the patch of dark brown, wet fur. It felt icy, slimy, and carried the mingled stench of river mud and stagnant water. Without sparing a glance for that hat, a hollow symbol of power, you clenched the fur tightly in your palm. The coarse bristles dug into your flesh as you turned, staggering but unyielding, step by step, toward the direction of Blood River Village, toward the cries and chaos that still lingered. The scorched earth crunched faintly beneath your feet. The wind stirred the ashes, blinding your eyes. Your figure, small and solitary, crossed the vast, pale scar of death. Yet with every step you took, you crushed the humiliation and despair of yesterday beneath your heels. The otter fur in your hand remained as cold as ever, while ahead lay the village still shrouded in blood-red clouds and the abyss of the human heart, deeper and darker than any demon's lair. The road ahead was still long,